upcoming year. Again, like last week, there's not a whole lot of news, but since it's a new year, hopefully some new great cinematic experiences. We're going to talk about the movies we are most looking forward to. Matt, you want to kick it off? Tell us what you're excited about.
Sure. The first one I kind of cheated a little bit at my number 5, just mass including every major release that was delayed from 2020. And I think there's going to be some overlap with your list, so maybe we won't go into too many specific details, but I mean, No Time to Die, Dune, Eternals, Quiet Place 2, the new Fast and the Furious movie, Raya and the Last Dragon. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah.
Obviously, with COVID and the theater situation, I don't know what the final number was, but tons of movies got pushed back.
Yeah.
So the slate next year is, or this year, I guess actually it is 2021 now. Yeah. If things hold true, it's just going to be stacked from now until December with
that is
coming out left and right.
Again.
Right, and that's kind of the thing where anything we're talking about today, no guarantee that they even come out this year. This is just going by the info we have now.
Exactly.
But there were so many big movies that we missed out on last year. I mean, No Time to Die would be easily my number one movie. I mean, James Bond, that was the first movie series that I really got into growing up. I mean, when I was 9-10 years old, it blew my mind that there was like 15 movies in one series. So I've been loving that for the better part of 2 decades now. And
I know you're a huge 007 fan. We clearly can see you. We got the Skyfall poster behind you. Now, I actually was never really a big 007 fan until Daniel Craig. I went and watched Casino Royale in theaters, and that I thought, whoa, this was like a great action movie. And so, I've been into Daniel Craig's, and I've gone back and watched some of the older ones. You know, I saw like a Pierce Brosnan one when I was growing up, but I think it was one of those bad ones where he's like CGI surfing the wave, and it's like really terrible.
My God. Yep. Die Another Day. That's one of the worst scenes I've ever seen, but I love it. I mean, the Bond movies, they've got so much camp to them. I mean, the Roger Moore era is goofy, especially for a spy series. But Daniel Craig, I think, is the best Bond. I think
he definitely took it out of that
is the best movie. So you came in at a good time. So hopefully they'll send him off with a good one.
Now, I was looking that they spent like a huge amount on marketing for this movie, and that they're going to lose a ton of money just on marketing alone because they marketed and pushed for this release date that they've then had to cancel. So they're looking at really an entirely new marketing campaign for when they actually try and.
That's going to be interesting because they missed out just by a couple of weeks. It was supposed to come out last April, and the March, April time, depending on which part of the world you're in, was kind of when it started to hit the fan. Kind of at the first onslaught of it, so they were right there, and then obviously got pushed back a couple times. So they're not the only movie that's going to have to deal with that. It'd be interesting to see studio strategies on some of those. You mean No Time to Die might have the name behind it, but if it's a smaller movie, maybe if they blew their whole budget on, what are they going to do there?
So, my first movie on my list is actually a WB movie, and we know that they're taking the route of pushing stuff to their streaming service, HBO Max. So I put together, I think I got like 9 here. We can just kind of touch on them as we go, and I got mine in their supposed chronological release. So first up, the one I'm really excited about is Mortal Kombat, which is releasing April 16th. It's supposed to be going to HBO Max and to theaters, which is what they're doing with all their movies. And I know that there's a good chance this could be a terrible movie, but at the same time, I am psyched to see some Mortal Kombat action. And I'm a sucker for the 90s. As terrible as it is, that one, it's got like some nostalgia behind it, and it's a fun. Not the second one. Annihilation was terrible, but this has director Simon McCoy, and I think this is his first movie. But it has James Wan producing, and the cast is really interesting because they went specifically with martial artists, and it's a largely Asian cast to play the Asian characters. They're sticking true to that. It's going to be R-rated. It's going to be violent. So I have a good feeling about it. Sub-Zero, who's like a fan favorite, is being played by this guy Joe Taslim, who was in The Raid and The Night Comes for Us.
Yep.
And he is fantastic. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on the head. The 90s one on a quality scale is probably not very good, but it's so entertaining. It's just a good, fun watch.
Yeah.
And if they can even improve on the quality part by, marginally, I think it'll be a success and people will at least enjoy it. And you mentioned Joe Taslim. think of movies like The Raid or mention Night Comes for Us. When they get people who know what they're doing in those fight scenes, it adds so much to that, because they don't have to do the endless cutting or the CGI or the slow motion type stuff. They can just let them go after it. And I think if nothing else, the fight scenes are going to be something, a win for the movie.
Yeah, because like we said, they're bringing in the actual martial artists, so the action, I'm expecting it to be on point. In fact, my next movie that I have is also an April release. I'll just go ahead and talk about this one. It's A Quiet Place Part 2, which I was a big fan of the original Quiet Place. It was a surprise hit. A lot of people didn't expect John Krasinski to be able to star in a movie like that, let alone write and direct it, and it'd be so good. So he is coming back to write and direct this. Emily Blunt is back, and I'm really excited for the addition of Cillian Murphy. I think he's a fantastic actor. And so in this one, it's going to follow the events of the first movie, but then it also is going to deviate into a wider scope. Like, it's not just happening at their home. Like the last movie was primarily at their home base. This one, they're in travels, and supposedly there's going to be a much bigger like human threat kind of thing. They're running into dangerous people and that sort of stuff. So what do you think? Did you see the first one? Did you like it?
I saw the first one. I loved it. That still stands as one of the coolest theater experiences I've ever had. It wasn't a ton of people there, but even still, it was maybe only 10, 15 people tops. But it was so quiet in the movie. Nobody wanted to do anything. They didn't want to eat their popcorn. They didn't want to open a candy wrapper. They didn't want to do a single thing. And it added so much to the experience. So I'm curious to see how much that's going to play a part in the second one. Knowing
you are
there's
lucky,
more,
I just want to say, because I saw it with people who were being so obnoxious, and it drove me nuts. Because, like you said, it's a movie that relies on the quietness, the silence.
It added so much to it.
Yeah, and I had these annoying teens in the front who were goofing off and throwing popcorn, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" I saw it twice in theaters. One experience was better than the other, but like you said, it was a great movie-going experience. We had that, good experience.
And this is an interesting one because this, even more so than No Time to Die, this was maybe a week behind. And so there's a bunch of people, people who were able to get screeners. A number of people have seen this movie already. Some of the higher profile critics and websites and publications. There's a bunch of people who've been holding on to their reviews, and they can maybe give some social media reactions. And it was all really positive. A bunch of people are saying it was as good as or better than the first one. So that one's, I'm sure people are just bursting at the seams waiting to get those reviews out that they've been sitting on for almost 12 months when it comes to the end of it.
Right, and because you said this one was just about to release, we got the trailer. The trailer, looked great, and we could see from the trailer it shows some bits of how it started. It did maybe through flashbacks, a little bit of prequel. We saw when the monsters were first attacking, when things were kind of in a normal life, and how that went. So I'm super excited to see where they take this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else you got for us, Matt? What's your number 4?
Number 4 is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And this one, if you haven't heard of it, this one is right up my alley. So it's Nicolas Cage playing Nicolas Cage. And I'll just read the premise off Wikipedia because I can't do it justice by myself. Nicolas Cage begrudgingly accepts a $1 million offer to attend the birthday party of a Mexican billionaire superfan. When things take a wild turn, he is forced to become a version of some of his most iconic and beloved characters in order to extricate his wife and daughter from the fan, who is a notorious drug lord. I mean, if that's not the top 10 movie of the year.
That reminds me of the scene in Tropic Thunder when the drug dealers had kidnapped Ben Stiller and made him reenact his handicapped character, and they just made him replay it over and over again.
I hadn't made that connection, but yes, that's actually it seems really accurate there. But this one, I mean, Nicolas Cage actually has it's his birthday today, so it's fitting that we're talking about that. But, I mean, think about the movies he's been in. I mean, Face Off, Con Air, National Treasure.
And he's recently gotten some, really good wild ones. I don't know if you saw The Color Out of Space or Mom and Dad. I know you don't really do horror movies. Those are
I haven't seen those, but I mean, Nick Cage being in them is what makes me maybe want to watch them.
It's because he's doing his most ham-fisted, insane, crazy stuff that he thrives on. So
yeah. So I mean, this one again, and for anybody who's a fan of the How Did This Get Made podcast, this, based on that description, seems to be a perfect choice. It's outrageous, over the top, won't be quote unquote good, but it's going to be beyond entertaining. Is what I'm thinking.
Very cool. Caleb mentions he's excited for the Eternals. And this is the one I was actually meaning to click on. Benson says Simple Jack. That was the name I couldn't think of. The mentally handicapped character. Yep. Thank you very much for that, Benson. Sorry. Did you want to go with another one, or you want me to take one?
I'll go with another one here. Oh yeah, and The Unbearable Weight, that's scheduled for March 19th. So again,
good. That's not too far away.
Then the next one has a summer 2021 release date. Doesn't have a firm date yet, but it's called 9 Days. And this was supposed to come out this year, but it's a much smaller movie, so I'm going to talk about it separately. It stars Winston Duke as a reclusive man, and is how he's described in the IMDb description. And he's interviewing human souls for a chance to be born. And that's really all I know about the movie. But again, like A Quiet Place, this is one that a few people have seen, and from the reviews I've seen and the podcasts I've listened to that mention it, they've just been giving rave reviews, particularly for Winston Duke, that he just knocks it out of the park. That if this was eligible for this coming Oscars, he'd be in the discussion for Best Actor. Might be a dark horse for a smaller movie, Best Picture, Best Screenplay, that type of stuff. And I mean, Winston Duke was great in Black Panther. He was phenomenal in Us last year for Jordan Peele, and giving him kind of a true lead role, I'm really excited about, because he was showing some real talent, and he was kind of ready to burst on the scene. It feels like I haven't seen a trailer for it. There's maybe one or two pictures out there, so I really don't know much about it. But given the actor, it kind of has an existential tilt to it, and it sounds like just a really original idea. That I'm really pumped for that one. Yeah, that one wasn't on my radar, but that definitely, like you said, sounds really interesting. I'm definitely going to want to check that one out. So the next one on my list is called The Last Night in Soho. It comes out April 23rd, and it's from director Edgar Wright, who of course did the Cornetto trilogy. He did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End. He also did Scott Pilgrim versus the World and Baby Driver, which came out a couple years ago, and I was a huge fan of that. Love that movie.
It stars Anya Taylor-Joy, who has been just on a roll lately. She was, in Queen's Gambit on Netflix, and that did really well. And the plot is a young girl who is passionate about fashion design mysteriously enters the 1960s, where she encounters her idol. But 1960s London is not what it seems, and time seems to fall apart with shady consequences. So really, it sounds like a old school Twilight Zone episode. It sounds like it's going to be one of those really mysterious kind of things. Seem like they're going good, and you slowly learn what's too good to be true, and the cracks kind of fall apart and reveal something scary underneath. That's what it sounds like, and it has kind of been described as something a little on the scary side, which we haven't seen from Edgar Wright. So I'm super excited about this one. What do you think? Are you a fan of Edgar Wright?
I mean, I loved Baby Driver, Kevin Spacey stuff notwithstanding. As a movie by itself, it's just a fun movie. But I haven't seen a ton of his stuff. But as we've talked about a few times on here before, we're both big fans of Anya Taylor-Joy, which you touched on. She was in Queen's Gambit, like you said. She was in Emma and New Mutants and Split. I mean, she's phenomenal, and another person who's just ready to absolutely blow up. It feels like
Thoroughbreds came out a couple years ago.
I love that movie. That was really underseen. It felt like but everyone I know who saw it was a big fan. I love that movie. So I mean, it's kind of got a horror twist to it, but it's kind of some more of a thriller feel maybe.
Right.
And I mean, this one, I'll probably see all these movies eventually. Just trying to see as many as I can, but this one is on the priority list, I'd say.
But coming off the heels of Baby Driver, which I thought was just one of the most entertaining movies of that year. Crap. Hold on, I'm trying to hide this stuff. Let's see. Okay, let me go to my next one here, which is Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I think most people are going to be a fan of. The only people who maybe are a little hesitant would be people who maybe were put off by the last, reboot, which was not great. But it's got Jason Reitman, who's the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed, the first two. It's bringing back the original cast, and it looks good. It's a direct sequel to the first two movies. It is totally ignoring the reboot. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually never saw the reboot. I don't know that I will anytime soon, but just because I don't,
You might not have to.
anyone whose opinion I valued doesn't seem to be a big fan of it. But that's beside the point. I mean, like you said, the trailer looks good. I mean, it's got Paul Rudd. That's a win by
Right.
itself.
So it adds Paul Rudd. It adds Finn Wolfhard, who people know from Stranger Things and It. So
yeah, I mean, should be entertaining. I rewatched the first Ghostbusters maybe last year. Planning to give the second one a rewatch before this one comes out. But yeah, I mean, the trailers look good. Should be a fun time.
So the plot to this one, I think, is the two kids, Finn Wolfhard, and I think there's a girl who I'm not familiar with, are the grandchildren of Egon, one of the Ghostbusters. Egon, played by Harold Ramis, who passed away, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. And they didn't know that their grandfather was a Ghostbuster. They didn't know, because I think from what I read in the plot of this, most people have kind of forgotten about the crazy stuff that happened in New York in the 80s. I don't know how you could forget about a giant marshmallow man and a demigod opening up and all this stuff, but people just don't really pay any never mind. So they're kind of mythical, the Ghostbusters, at this point. And then they learn that their grandfather was a part of this, and meet with Paul Rudd, who's like a Ghostbusters fanatic and like collects the stuff. And they uncover some crazy stuff going on in their town, of course, which is always the trend. So I'm gonna go ahead with one more here, since I think I have more than you.
Yep.
The next one that I'm super excited for is The Suicide Squad, which comes out August 6th, going to HBO Max and to theaters. Let me be clear, I hated Suicide Squad, the first one in the DC.
That's not a hot take.
I hated that movie. Now, but I am super excited for this one, because this one really looks like this is what the movie it should have been. This is a movie that's not going to take itself super seriously. I mean, it has James Gunn, who most people know from Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think he has that perfect humor, action, adventure kind of blend. He also did this horror movie Slither back in the day, and the cast on this is, I mean, the cast is too big to name everybody, but of course you have Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, John Cena, Joel Kinnaman, Viola Davis, Sylvester Stallone, Pete Davidson, Michael Rooker, Taika Waititi, Nathan Fillion. There's just so many people. And from what they've said, it is just going to be a like nonstop action blast, and that a lot of these people are going to die. They said don't get attached to anybody. Anybody could die. Yep. I mean, for all we know, they could kill off Harley Quinn. I don't know if they plan on using her anymore, because Birds of Prey, I don't think they're doing a sequel. I don't think they'll kill Harley Quinn, but I think anything's up in the air with her.
She's probably the safest, but I guess you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the footage that they showed from the DC Fandom a few months ago, that looked promising, very promising. Right. And I think anyone who's holding on to their opinions from the first Suicide Squad, they just need to let that go. It's a different movie, totally different team, different cast. I mean, James Gunn, nailed both Guardians of the Galaxy movies, so he knows how to handle a big cast, knows how to mix the action and the humor and get everyone their time on screen. And the DC needs a good movie. They need one that's going to be well received both critically and by the fans. It doesn't need to be a Dark Knight level good movie, but something that earns, normally we'll see what the box office is like, but normally maybe several $100 million, $500, $600, $700 up there. Give them some success that fans kind of get some faith back into the studio, which they've kind of lost some steam a little bit after, Shazam, Aquaman, and the first Wonder Woman. They've kind of fallen off a little bit, not entirely their fault, just with some delays and whatnot. But, this could be one that kind of gets them back on track.
I think of all the movies coming out this year, or that are supposed to come out this year, this is one of the ones that I'm the most excited for. I just really have a good feeling. I think this is going to be one of those just really fun, entertaining popcorn movies. Now, I heard Dave Bautista was originally going to be in it. We know him and James Gunn are, really tight from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but he supposedly dropped out of it and left to go be in Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, a zombie movie that he's making. So he has the leading role in that, I think.
See which decision was the correct one at the end of the day.
Yeah, we'll find out. All right, what do you got next for us, Matt?
My number 2, no confirmed release date yet, but everything I've seen still shows 2021, is Those Who Wish Me Dead. And this is kind of a Western thriller This is kind of how it's described. So there's a teenage murder witness, and he's pursued by a couple assassins. It takes place in the Montana wilderness. And he's got some sort of survival expert looking out for him, protecting him. And then there's also a huge forest fire in the area as well. So kind of a couple threats from a couple different sides. This is written and directed by Taylor Sheridan, who you might know. He wrote Sicario and Hell or High Water. Also wrote and directed Wind River.
And those are all amazing movies.
I mean, all the movies are fantastic. Sicario is probably the big name there, but Wind River seems to be underseen, and that movie
blew me away.
That movie is incredible. That's one I need to rewatch because that movie is just so good. And so he Taylor Sheridan also was in Sons of Anarchy as Deputy Hale, but he has this genre down. It seems like he knows what he's doing. He's comfortable in that working in that area, and so I've got really high expectations for this one. It's got a pretty good cast too. Tyler Perry's in it, who had a surprisingly good dramatic turn in a few movies recently.
Yeah.
Aidan Gillen, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, John Bernthal, Nicholas Hoult, Angelina Jolie. So he's worked with Bernthal a couple times already. So there's
Bernthal was in Wind River.
Yep, some reoccurring collaboration. But this one could be a sleeper for a lot of top 10 lists at the end of the year. I think this one is setting up to be
I'm
really good.
Like all the three movies you mentioned, Hell or High Water, Sicario, and Wind River, they're all three back here on my Blu-ray shelf. I own them all. I like them. Now with John Bernthal, he always shows up and does really well with like 10 minutes of screen time, dude. I want this guy to get like a major role in one of these movies coming.
Now, I haven't seen it, but there's a movie called Sweet Virginia from 2018 or 2019.
I did see that. I watched it on streaming, and it was pretty good, and he did good.
But yeah, when he gets the chance, he's not just this big macho action guy. He can do that, but he's got more depth than just that. Right. So I'm not sure where his role is in terms of if he's one of the leads, if he's going to be on there for 10 minutes again, then drop off. But hopefully, he'll have a good meaty character to really sink his teeth into for this one.
Right. All right. Let me tell you what I got for number 7 on my list here. Halloween Kills, coming out, of course, in October 15th. So this is a direct sequel to Halloween 2018, which I don't know why they called it Halloween. Again, why would you just give it just the name of the original when it's a sequel to it? So
there was a third one titled Halloween.
Yeah, because you had the stupid
Rob Zombie. Oh my God, those movies suck. They're so bad.
So this, for those who didn't know, 2018 was a direct sequel to John Carpenter's original 1978 classic, and it just ignored everything in between. It ignored the 10 sequels that happened in the middle there. And I thought it was really good. So it was written and directed by David Gordon Green, who Danny McBride co-wrote with him. And David Gordon Green's filmography is just so scattered. He has done some really terrible comedies like Your Highness, and then he's done some pretty good comedies like Pineapple Express, but then he also has done some dramas like George Washington, and he did this movie Stronger that was pretty good. So he was an odd name to come in, but the reason I was so confident, him and Danny McBride, you would not put these two at doing horror. Danny McBride is the typical stoner, I think he's hilarious, but you don't think horror. But the reason I had so much confidence in these two is because they were just such big Halloween fans. They loved this character and they loved this series, and that's what they wanted to do. And I thought they did a great job. So this sequel takes up exactly where that first one left off. So this one still takes place in 2018. It picks up right where that movie ended and just goes from there. They put out a little bit of footage. They did a couple little teasers on it, and I think it looks good. It was supposed to come out last October. Got delayed. Let's hope it doesn't get delayed again. What do you think? I know you're not a horror fan, so.
I mean, I've seen all the movies, and obviously, the first one is a classic. Now, I wasn't as high on the 2018 one as most people seem to be. I thought they kind of showed all the good parts in the trailers, and then what was left wasn't that great. But what people liked about it, I don't really take issue with that. Is just that it didn't really hit the same for me. Right. There's that one really cool. I'm a huge fan of really well done long takes, and they had the one when he's walking down the street, goes into that garage, picks up the knife, but they showed most of that whole thing in the trailer.
Right.
So for me, at least, it was, oh, I've already seen this part. This would have been the coolest single scene in the movie,
Right.
but they already knew what was happening. But, that's just me. It might not affect anybody else, other people's opinions of it. But the podcasting part, it's kind of ironic as we're talking about that here, but that felt really shoehorned in. There's just some creative choices that I didn't necessarily agree with, but again, I wasn't the specific target audience for a movie like that, so I'll see this one. But it's funny you mentioned the Danny McBride thing, because it goes back to the John Krasinski. There's that theme of just these comedians just crushing these horror movies, because he did a Quiet Place, Jordan Peele with Get Out and Us, Danny McBride with these. Something about the comedy to horror, there's maybe something there, and we'll see more going forward.
Right. So they do have the third one is also filmed already. Halloween Ends.
They filmed it, or they just announced it?
They filmed it back to back.
Okay. I love when movies do that. Like Back to the Future did that with 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame did it. It flows together so much better, and you can have different callbacks in each of them when you know exactly what's going to happen in each one. So I like that just from a creative decision standpoint. I didn't know what they already filmed out
October of next year if that happens. So
my one wish for this upcoming one is that they don't quote unquote kill Michael at the end, because we know there's a third one. There's no tension at all at that point. If they do is he or isn't he dead, because clearly he's not. Let him go off into the night, and then a cliffhanger with somebody else.
I'm thinking, I don't think that they've ever really done that. They kill Michael at the end of every movie, which happens, with all the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street. They always seem to kill the monster or the threat, even though, horror movies, these guys always come back. So yeah, it would be interesting if he escaped off into the night and that's where it kind of ended.
Because this one didn't have a campy enough tone for them to pull it off, I don't think. It was more of a serious horror, thriller, drama type movie than just we're going to have a little fun for an hour and a half. So I don't think it would work as well. We'll see. That's kind of a pipe dream, but that's what I'm hoping for at the very least. All
right. Let me do one more, and then we'll take your last one, and I'll have one more after that. So number 8 for me, I have West Side Story, which comes out. It'll come out till December 10th. Steven Spielberg is directing this one. It stars Ansel Elgort from Baby Driver, who we were just talking about. He plays Tony. And then Rachel Zegler, who I'm not familiar with. She plays Maria, the 2 leads. I'm a huge fan of the original West Side Story film. I love the 1961 film. It's my favorite musical. It won 10 Oscars. It was just a huge deal when it came out. I think it earned all of them. So I was super excited when I heard Steven Spielberg was going to be adapting a new one, because I think a new, fresh take on it could be really, really good.
Yeah, that's one of my movie blind spots, is the original West Side Story. That's one that I have to watch, and I've got 11 months to do it. I think I can find time to fit it in. But, I've had a growing appreciation for musicals. I mean, obviously there's the Disney animated ones that I grew up on, but I mean, the second Mamma Mia, no shame, I love that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen Mamma Mia.
One of my favorites from 2018 when it came out. It's incredible. It's so much fun. But I mean, Singing in the Rain, watched for the first time last year. That movie's great.
I watched it for the first time last month. I loved it.
I thought it was so good. The Hamilton movie, Hamill film play, that was awesome. So I'm definitely excited for this. They haven't really released much of it, have they? Maybe
no, there hasn't been a trailer. There hasn't been anything. They've shown a couple pictures, but they're like set photos. They're not even like photos from the actual movie. I'm guessing that he's gonna update some of the music, and they'll keep the songs the same, but they're probably gonna put like a little modern twist into some of them. It still takes place in the 50s, and for those of you who don't know, it's a Romeo and Juliet story. It's 2 warring gangs, the Jets and the Sharks, and a guy from the Jets falls for a girl from the Sharks, and their gangs are not having it. So it's like a Romeo and Juliet. They want to be together, but their families are tearing them apart. Set the music. It's really good.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 original songs, but yeah, I think that one's going to be really good. I'm really pumped for that one as well.
All right. So what is your number 1 here? What do you got?
Number 1 is easily, for me, Mission Impossible 7. think it's got the working title Libra. I don't know if that's gonna hold or not, but I actually just rewatched Fallout this afternoon. Still holds up. That movie's it's so good. They haven't released a plot for this one yet, but it follows the same story. So Solomon Lane is back as the main villain. It's got Tom Cruise, obviously. Vanessa Kirby's back. Rebecca Ferguson is back. Angela Bassett is back. And just look really assessing the cast here. It's adding Haley Atwell, Shea Wingham, Simon Pegg, and Ving Rhames are back. So stacked cast like always. And I mean, the last 3 Mission Impossibles, Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, and Fallout, are some of the best action movies in recent memory, especially Fallout. And if you follow on Instagram or Twitter, you've probably seen that set photo from day one of filming, where they basically started with a huge stunt. It's Tom Cruise going off on a motorcycle, off a cliff, this huge ramp. And, it's just setting the stage. He's famous for doing his own stunts, putting his own life in danger pretty much just to do ridiculous things. So I don't really care what the plot is. For my mind, I don't have to see a trailer to go see this movie opening night. This one, I as excited for this probably as any non-Bond or Marvel movie in several years. I
mean, I'm right there with you. I absolutely love the Mission Impossible movies. I've seen them all in theaters. I remember watching the original one in theaters as a kid with my dad. He took me, had no idea what I was going into, and I really liked that, even as a kid. Second one, obviously, is the Blemish. I think most people think in the record there. I'm not
the John Woo, right?
The John Woo one, and John Woo's great. His just American movies aren't that great.
He's got a few signature, styles and flares. Of course, there's the dub scene. But I mean, if I'm rewatching the series, I'll still watch that one.
Yeah,
but that's the only one where I wouldn't just go back and watch just by itself.
Right.
But the other 5 are all really good.
But like you said, when they hit Rogue Nation and went off from there, right? That was 4.
Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol. I always get them flipped. I'm pretty sure Rogue Nation is 4.
Either way, once they hit number 4, those 3, it might have been Ghost Protocol now that I'm thinking about it, but either way, those were awesome. And like you said, Fallout, I just watched that not that long ago with my daughter. That was the first Mission Impossible movie I introduced her to, and she really liked it. So yeah, I am psyched. And you're talking about Tom Cruise doing his own stunts. I was just watching like yesterday something about for the Top Gun, the new Top Gun movie, Maverick, coming out. Where he's like flying his own jet, and they have the cameras in there, and he like launches off of a like carrier and stuff. And they're like, "Can you believe this? Tom Cruise is like launching a jet off of this carrier in the middle of the ocean, and he did it himself."
The guy's a madman. I don't know if you saw the video from Fallout where he broke his ankle, and because that's the shot that's in the movie, and you can to look for it. You can see when it happens. And he starts like limping off on the roof when he's still running. I mean, he knew that they had to keep the take going, so he just powered through it. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you. Was that your last one?
That was my last noted. So why don't you finish up with what you've got there?
All right. So the last one I have noted, and I think this is going to be one of the biggest movies of the year, if not the biggest movie of the year. This could be 2021's Endgame. It is Spider-Man 3. Untitled at this moment, but Spider-Man 3 in the MCU, which is all but confirmed, not 100% confirmed, but pretty close to being confirmed to be a Spider-Verse movie. We're supposed to be getting back a lot of characters. Now, ones that they have 100% confirmed from, Disney and Sony and things are, they said we're getting back 100% Jamie Foxx. We know Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange is going to be in there. It's going to be a huge cast. The rumored cast is enough to fill 3 movies probably. But I am really, really excited for the opportunity to see a live-action Spider-Verse with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield on screen with Tom Holland.
Yeah, I mean, goes without saying that, I'm very excited for this one as well. And we've touched on Marvel before, touched on this one specifically a few times. And really, like we've said before, the only real concern is that the cast is going to be too big,
right?
And that they don't handle that collection correctly. But even if they misfire slightly, I think it's going to be hard to make it straight up bad.
Yeah.
And especially with the track record Marvel has and Kevin Feige has with just the creative control he's got that thing just on a perfect assembly line right now. That, you know, just reiterate our previous points is that we believe in them until they prove otherwise, pretty much.
Right.
And I mean, Tom Holland has been fantastic as Spider-Man. He was an incredible casting choice.
Yeah.
So I mean, like any MCU movie, also Eternals, Black Widow as well. Any one of those, maybe not Black Widow as the biggest movie, but you know, Spider-Verse, for lack of a better title right now, could end up as the year's biggest earner when it's all said and done.
And there's been talk of, you know, what could, if this is a Spider-Verse movie, what could that launch into further future movies? And a big thing is Sinister Six, obviously people are talking about, especially with the number of villains they are launching in here, bringing back supposedly, you know, Doc Ock, Otto Octavius from Spider-Man 2 would, you know, be a good choice to be the leader of the Sinister Six, bringing in all these people that we know we're going to have, Electro and everybody. You could set up a Sinister Six movie. There's also talk by doing this might be how they're trying to get Venom and Morbius to link up with this Spider-Man by opening a multiverse. Obviously, having Doctor Strange be titled in the Multiverse of Madness and having Sam Raimi direct, who obviously did the original Spider-Man trilogy, the doors are just going to be opening. And another thing people have talked about, and this is like a dream, I don't think this would actually happen, but a boy can dream, is that bringing Sam Raimi in and then bringing Tobey Maguire back might set up that Sam Raimi could then do a Spider-Man 4 that takes place back in Tobey Maguire's universe, where they say this is what he's doing after he just entered the Spider-Verse and did this, and he goes back to his universe, and we could get another Tobey Spider-Man 4. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up just endless possibilities, like you mentioned there, and you know, with you mentioned Morbius and Venom, there's also those movies coming out next year too.
Yes.
So depending on how meticulously they planned everything, you know, it'll be worth watching if there's any kind of hints in those movies as to if they're going to be tied into that larger universe, or if they would recast those roles if they do include them later on.
And a lot of people noticed in the Morbius trailer that at the end it had Michael Keaton, who appeared to be playing his character.
That's right.
Turn and speak to Morbius, and a lot of people were like, "Whoa, what does this mean?" Now we are merging. So this could be a sign that this has been in the works for a while. Now, obviously, I don't think the Morbius trailer looked very good, and I don't think Venom was very good. I am still excited for Venom 2 because I want to see Woody Harrelson as Carnage, and I think that they could be better. But, I mean, my hopes aren't super high. That's not on my list of one of the ones I'm, you know, most psyched for, obviously.
Yeah. I'll see them both, but yeah, if I was ranking every single movie that I want to see, they'd be down on the priority list or excitement list.
All right. Well, is there anything that came to mind as we've been sitting here rattling off movies for an hour that you hadn't listed before that you're psyched about?
Well, a Red Notice was one. That's the huge Netflix like international spy movie. Supposedly their most expensive movie ever made, I believe. It's one with Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, Gal Gadot, I believe. I think it's supposed to be 2021. There hasn't been a lot of firm data or information on that yet, but that would be one that would be probably a huge hit. You've seen what Netflix does with some lesser action movies.
Right.
You get one like that. That'd be major. I'm a huge fan of the Fast and Furious movies. So with F9 coming out, I mean, those are some of the most fun, just pure entertainment, fun movies that I could throw on any given day and just enjoy it. And they keep going over the top and over the top every time.
For this one looks like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
I cannot wait. This movie, I'll lock it in as the top 10 favorite movie of the year right now, and I can guarantee it's going to stay in there somewhere. So that's one that I'm really excited for. You mentioned Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
You know, that one looks really good. Got a pretty good cast as well.
But Matt, this is one of the things I like about you. When we were just talking about, you know, favorite movies of 2020, you know, you have like The Sound of Metal and things like that are these really intense like dramas and low budget indies that are really serious. And then you're like, but I love Fast and the Furious. I want to watch Fast and the Furious 9. I love the diversity.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much good stuff out there.
Absolutely.
You know,
I mean, I'm the same way.
Why limit yourself to just the small melodramatic dramas or the big over the top action movies.
Oh
There's
yeah.
everything in between, and there's so much good out there. Obviously, theater costs and rental costs might be a little prohibitive in terms of being able to see as much as you might like to, but one reason I like doing this is that we can hopefully expose people to some more options that they maybe wouldn't have heard of otherwise. And that's kind of where I chose the list I did, is that I figured outside of Mission Impossible, those other 3 or 4 that I mentioned would be maybe less likely to be widely would have less awareness. And those are the movies that can usually surprise you. I saw Parasite last year, kind of before all the hype.
Right.
That one was obviously a perfect movie for me.
Yeah, we talked about that.
You mentioned Sound of Metal. A lot of people still haven't seen that one. There's just so much out there. It might take a little extra work, digging through some other reviews. Searching best movies you haven't heard of from this year, that type of thing. But that's what I just tried. I mean, I try to see everything I can in any given year. And but what I would say is go to the Wikipedia page, 2021 movies, and read through every single movie, and just make a list of ones that you hadn't heard of, and there's going to be some there that surprise you. Absolutely.
And look at the writers and directors, and then if you're not familiar, or if you think the name sounds familiar, look up what else they directed or wrote, and then you will see a trend, and you'll become a fan of this person. Like that, I remember that happened a few years ago with Bong Joon-ho, who did Parasite. That's why I was so excited to go see Parasite. I was watching, Memories of Murder and Mother and some other movies, and I was like, man, these are all great movies. This guy really knows how to make movies. And then when Parasite came out, I was like, I got to get there and watch Parasite, and it was amazing. I drove like 2 hours to go to a theater to watch Parasite because it wasn't playing anywhere around here.
Worth it, I'd say. Yeah, and you can do it kind of accidentally too. Like I'd talk about Taylor Sheridan, and I had seen Sicario, Hell or High Water, and Wind River just because they were recommended to me. I never made the connection that they were all written by him. And then you see, oh, they're all written by the same guy. That makes sense. They have the same feel.
Right.
I love what he's doing. So look at some of your favorite movies, and look at who wrote them, who directed them, and try to find those trends, and you'll see it. They are probably involved in a lot more movies than you were aware of previously, and then that should hopefully just expand your movie palette, if you will. And there's tons out there than just the big billion-dollar blockbusters.
Right. Great. I think that is some great advice to end on. So thank you everybody for watching. If you think of any movies that we didn't miss, or you hear something that's super exciting, be sure to let us know. Matt, where can people get a hold of you if they have any questions or comments?
Twitter and Instagram at Matt Hambidge. Actually just put out my full 2020 movie rankings, all 125 of them. So check that out if you are interested. Yes, I will get over there. I'm definitely going to check it out and let you know what I think of that. You can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. Movie Guy 86. I'm not on there super active, but go ahead and hit me up if you need anything. And we will be back same time next week, Thursday at 8 o'clock. Maybe there will be some news. We'll cover it. If not, we will find some way to try and kill the time. Perfect. All right. We'll see you guys.